everyone, and Professor Katz. I was fortunate enough to conduct a phone interview with Ellen Wright. She's one of my professors for this semester who teaches at both Howard Community College and the Laurel College Center. As you instructed, I simply started off the interview giving her background information on what pinching in the classroom is, and even though she was unfamiliar and never heard of the term, she knew what I meant. But nevertheless, I went on to explain what it meant. I started off, as you know, and according to my course's textbook, the general purpose of testing is to attempt to provide objective data that can be used with subjective impressions to make better, more definitive decisions as an educator. Moreover, the combination of subjective judgments and objective data will result in making appropriate decisions. When I use the word pinching, I'm referring to assigning grades and how, as an educator, you specifically go about measuring learning for your students. From my understanding, the way an educator pinches, or in other words, how they measure, is different from other educators. I then went on to give an example, and this example was in Chapter 4 in the textbook. I just reworded it so that I would understand it. In Teacher A class, she bases her grades entirely on monthly assignments and a comprehensive final exam. Although she takes attendance and encourages classroom participation, she doesn't use any of these elements to assign grades to her students. She relies solely on the assessments and the final exam at the end of the semester. Teacher B grades as follows: 20% on monthly tests, 20% on a comprehensive final exam, 10% on homework, 20% on attendance, 15% on participation, and 15% on attitude. It's clear that Teacher A pinches more heavily on test data, and Teacher B pinches more heavily on attendance and participation in the classroom. Therefore, I went on to ask Mrs. Wright, how do you assign grades? Professor Wright assigns grades to students based on how they achieve their course objectives. The objectives are usually set by course developers and administrative parts on the learning team. The assignments are weighted on how much they achieve or address the objective. It is based on what has been done in other courses and what research says about what students are able to learn in a particular course. Usually those determinants are based on research, what is currently set as a standard for that course, and what is appropriate for student learning at that time of their development. For instance, my Psychology 101 students have different objectives because their cognitive schema is different than individuals who have been exposed to introductory psychology concepts before. So, my adolescent psychology students are generally older and have been exposed to more psychology concepts. Their schema is different, and thus the requirements and objectives for the course is different. My second question: now that we went over pinching in the classroom, what are the disadvantages and advantages you see? What is a disadvantage is that every teacher understands that students have their own methods of learning and their own schema. Some students can learn quickly and easily master the objectives, and others take more time. What is difficult is that as an educator, grades can be limiting because they don't always show the students in all of their dimensions. They give a snapshot in time as to how the student is doing in a particular objective at that particular time. Therefore, after conducting the interview, I've learned there are many different elements in determining what a student has learned. Different courses, of course, have different objectives that are set by administrators and developers. Overall, the combination of testing, subjective judgments, and objective data will help make better decisions as an educator.